neighborhoods to be safer. You need the gang leaders and the drug dealers and the carjackers and the rapists and the murderers. You need those people arrested that are in those communities so that the decent law-abiding citizens in those communities can enjoy life in a safer community. But the problem is when Black Lives Matter movement successfully puts so much pressure on police departments, the police officers themselves are a little more timid than they normally would be about proactively going after the bad guys in the high crime neighborhoods. So what happens is a lot of times police officers just kind of back off a little bit. Well, let's just back off. We see a gang of guys standing there at 1 o'clock in the morning loitering. We want to ask them some questions, so we don't know if they're up to no good or not. Let's investigate a little bit. Let's just not risk it. Let's just drive on, because what if an altercation happens and we're going to be the next YouTube sensation? So the police officers in many cases just drive on when they should have investigated, but they didn't. And so now, guess what? One or two of the men in that gang standing there end up going out and raping and killing somebody that night, or carjacking and shooting somebody, or robbing a home, or whatever. Bottom line, you now have innocent people who died at the hand of one of these gang members who could have been in jail that night, but instead he wasn't in jail. So everybody suffers. More policemen die, more black suspects who are not killers end up dying because they resisted arrest and the police officer ended up having to use lethal force. And then the citizens, law-abiding citizens in high crime areas, they suffer as well. The Black Lives Matter movement, the message is a dangerous message of if you're black, fear cops, especially white cops. Fear for your lives. And this movement has needed to be repudiated by President Obama, and it hasn't been. Now again, I'm not connecting Black Lives Matter movement specifically to this latest shooting in Wayne State because we don't have enough information to know that. What I am saying is what happened in Wayne State is consistent with the type of concerns that people like myself and others, including many in law enforcement, have pointed out. That when you create an atmosphere of fear for your life among black people when they encounter police, especially white police, you increase the tension of that moment, you increase the risk of that moment, and you increase the chances that that black suspect is liable to resist arrest and fight the police officer because he's been convinced he has to fight for his life, or he's going to be executed by the racist white police officer. It's a dangerous message. It's a wrong message. But the problem is you can't say things like I'm saying right now, because by pointing this out, here's what happens. Liberals in America, they don't hear the words that I actually speak. Here's all they hear. All they hear is, yeah, Bob Duco's claiming that there's no such thing as police brutality, that there's no such thing as racist cops, that there's no such thing as excessive force, that there's no such thing as a wrongful death from police officers. Bob claims that that never, ever happens, and that there's zero racism in this country. So that's the problem, folks. Liberals listen to what I say on the show, and then it runs through the filter of their brain, through their ears, into the brain, and somehow it translates into something different than I say. And whenever I do point out things like, look, there are legitimate cases of police brutality. There are legitimate cases of wrongful shootings and wrongful deaths. There are legitimate cases of bad cops who belong in jail. These are legitimate cases, and we should go after these cases. And see, they don't hear me say those words. Whenever I say stuff like that, all liberals hear is Charlie Brown's teacher. Womp, 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 womp. And then they just translate the whole thing into a denial of police brutality. I'm not denying it. But what I'm saying is you can't go to the other extreme, which is to teach black people in America part of your daily life needs to be, if you encounter a white police officer, you're in danger. You better not let him arrest you because he'll execute you before you make it to the police station. Can't send that message to black youth in this country and expect that that's not going to cost more lives on all sides. Apparently got more news and politics. We'll dive into it next couple minutes from now here on the Bob Duco Show.